Prime Minister in Vietnam for APEC. Court decision sees more refugees leave Lombrum. And PNG focus on input into global guidelines against climate change.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining me for Wednesday's news. Yesterday's Supreme Court's refusal of an application seeking interim orders for the restoration of essential services to the Manus Regional Processing Centre triggered several events in Lombrum. Manus Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu said 24 refugees voluntarily vacated the centre yesterday afternoon. They were transported along with their belongings to the East Lorengau Transit Centre.
According to Provincial Police Commander for Manus, David Yapu, local authorities are hoping the action of 24 asylum seekers voluntarily leaving the Lombrum Centre yesterday will see others follow. The 24 men were transported to East Lorengau following the Supreme Court verdict which ruled against them. The Manus Regional Processing Centre was closed on Tuesday, October 31st, in compliance with a 2016 Supreme Court decision. The same afternoon, the refugees filed an application seeking interim orders to restore essential services there, while waiting for the Chief Justice to appoint a single judge to hear the case. Over 600 refugees remained camped at the centre. They were surviving on well water and food supplies from shops in Lorengau town. The matter went before Chief Justice Salamo India on Monday and a verdict was handed down yesterday. In the verdict, all three orders were refused by the court because the 2016 Supreme Court decision had ruled that the Manus Detention Centre was illegally established and in breach of the PNG Constitution. Following the court decision yesterday, Acting Chief Immigration Officer Solomon Kanta urged the remaining asylum seekers in Lombrum to voluntarily vacate the centre and move to join others at the relocation sites. The statement explains that essential services are provided at the new sites and says asylum seekers no longer have a legal basis to remain at the decommissioned facility. A team of provincial health inspectors have arrived in Manus to make assessments on the Lombrum Centre. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, Amnesty International released a statement describing the Supreme Court ruling as an aberrant attack on the right to life. Their Pacific researcher Kate Schwetz said there is a real risk that the situation in Manus will catastrophically deteriorate if authorities don't act immediately. Schwetz was referring to the welfare of those asylum seekers still living at the Manus Regional Processing Centre in Lombrum. She said PNG government does not have systems in place to settle refugees, and Amnesty International has always been calling on the Australian government to end offshore processing and bring refugees onshore to fulfill its obligation under international laws to process refugees' claims. In a media release this afternoon, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has asked asylum seekers at the Manus Detention Centre to move to the new site. O'Neill said the detention centre was established for the purpose of processing asylum claims, which has been completed. He said the centre will not be reopened and has been returned to its former function as a Defence Force facility. Given the Supreme Court's decision, the PNG government has no choice but to intervene for the well-being of both the refugees and non-refugees. From the 820 refugees currently in Manus, 610 have been processed as genuine refugees, while the remaining 210 as non-refugees. APEC countries are seeing some economic recovery as investors and traders look towards a positive 24 months. Against this backdrop, leaders of APEC countries will be discussing ways to take full advantage of the positive outlook. For Papua New Guinea, the opportunities to learn from lessons experienced by Asian economies are wide-ranging, and they include those relating to communication access and fixing the mismatch between the skills shortage and the kind of graduates that come out of university.
This is the second most important meeting for APEC in Vietnam. The APEC Ministers' meeting brings together foreign ministers of 21 economies in the Asia-Pacific, including the US, Russia and China. Papua New Guinea is represented by the APEC Minister, Justin Chachenko, and the Foreign Affairs Minister, Rimbing Pato. Both men are this week the center of attention as ministers of the host country in 2018. Papua New Guinea will be furthering APEC priorities in 2018. The three main priorities are improving connectivity, inclusive growth and strengthening growth through structural reforms. Yesterday, the APEC minister said connectivity has been given the highest priority in 10 years.
Okay, your government is now planning to complete the process of the underground cabling system, which has been long overdue. It's part of the Treasurer's and the government's 100-day plan. That will cut down, that underground cabling to help our IT and our digital network system. They'll cut down the cost dramatically and make it so much easier for our people to access cheap and affordable Wi-Fi and digital technology.
Apart from the main conference, Foreign Affairs Minister Rimbing Pato has been holding separate bilateral meetings with various world leaders. This morning, meeting with Australia's Julie Bishop. He's expected to release a separate statement on this later. For APEC economies, 2017 and 2018 is an important period. Already, there are signs of recovery within the region showing relatively good growth in GDP of 3.9% compared to last year's 3.3%. According to APEC analysts, 3.9% is higher than the average growth of the global economy. For Papua New Guinea, this means a slow but steady recovery that should see struggling businesses bounce back, but not like the growth seen earlier in the decade. Papua New Guinea joined APEC in 1994, but as a country, it hasn't really taken advantage of the benefits of APEC. In 2018, Port Moresby plays host to the APEC Leaders Summit, and both the APEC Minister and the Foreign Affairs Minister say it's a huge opportunity for the country. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Da Nang, Vietnam.
And Prime Minister Peter O'Neill arrived in Da Nang this afternoon for the APEC Leaders Summit. We go live via Skype to Scott Waide. Scott, I understand things have become very busy in Da Nang with the arrival of officials and leaders. Can you tell us what is happening?
Thank you, Helen. It's been a very busy week for people here in Da Nang, Vietnam, with many world leaders coming to this place. A lot of security here. A lot of people have come to this meeting for the officials meeting and as well as the leaders meeting. The Russian president is expected also in Da Nang in a few hours. Donald Trump, the US president as well. Our Prime Minister arrived this afternoon.
What kind of an interest has the APEC meeting generated for Papua New Guinea, and what are the expectations?
Many people are finding the word Papua New Guinea, the name Papua New Guinea, very interesting. It's generated a lot of interest for the country itself. A lot of people here don't know where Papua New Guinea is, so there's a lot of investor interest, a lot of interest with trade from various countries in the Asia region, and also generally people just want to know about the culture of Papua New Guinea. So Papua New Guinea have a huge challenge to present themselves in a very positive manner.
And the Prime Minister arrived this afternoon. What is he expected to do at the Leaders Summit?
The Prime Minister has an important role here in Vietnam because he takes over as the APEC Leaders Summit chairperson, and he'll take up that role starting tomorrow when they meet. The handover happens and he takes up the position officially in 2018 when APEC comes to Papua New Guinea. on another aspect of APEC, the ministers for Foreign Affairs and APEC, Justin Patenko and Rugby Pato, were in a ministerial meeting today. Rugby Pato also held bilateral meetings with the Australians and other countries as well. So it's been a very busy week. The Prime Minister is also expected to have his own meetings with other heads of state, and it's going to be a very eventful week as a lead up to Friday.
Thank you. That was Scott Wider in Da Nang, Vietnam. Stay tuned because National EMTV News continues after the break. Welcome back. Papua New Guinea's focus for the COP23 will be on the development of the Paris Rulebook. The rulebook, once developed, will act as a guideline for the world to use in combating climate change. In the rulebook, PNG made 7 submissions, with 4 currently being further developed. The 4 submissions will be operational articles of the Paris Agreement and will influence how the Paris Agreement 2015 is implemented. PNG is represented at the COP23 meet in Bonn, Germany, by officers from the Climate Change and Development Authority, the Foreign Affairs and Forestry Department, with Environment and Climate Change Minister John Pundari representing the government. The development of the rulebook will be the beginning of practical components that will realistically guide how countries deal with climate change. Climate scientist and biologist Professor Tim Flannery today told media about the challenges of achieving the goals set for cutting carbon pollution at the COP23 currently underway in Bonn, Germany. Most of Professor Flannery's work is based on Papua New Guinea plants, animals and environment. He was speaking at a small gathering organized by the United Nations Development Programme. He was accompanied by fellow scientist Dr. Jeffrey Noro, who heads a community conservation project in Siwai in the autonomous region of Bougainville.
If you go out to the regions, you'll see so many old diesel plants, yeah? And diesel power plants. I understand there's not even one hybrid power plant in the whole country, a hybrid solar diesel, you know. So that is a field of enormous opportunity because you can be saving costs at a massive scale, even by just hybridizing power systems. I think your potential for micro hydro up here is huge. Your potential for geothermal is equally great.
Papua New Guinea is, I think, has the terrain, you know, has the landscape to actually invest in micro hydro, you know, opportunities. And probably just one of the things that's lacking at this stage is the coordination on how to improve existing, you know, micro hydro sort of a generation units.
The National and Supreme Courts of Papua New Guinea will soon have 44 judges. This follows the decision of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission to appoint 10 more judges. Of the 10, 4 have been appointed as acting judges.
Justice Minister and Attorney General Davis Stephen, who is also chairman of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, today announced the decision of the JLSC to appoint 10 more judges to serve in the National and Supreme Courts of Papua New Guinea. Of the 10, 6 are permanent judges who will each serve for a period of 10 years. They are Professor Justice Wagile Bethwell, Jim Walatamate, Thomas Anis, Danajo Koge, Daniel Leosi and Ravunama Auka. Professor Justice Wagila Bethwell is the first appointment of a judge from Botswana, a country which has a similar jurisdiction to Papua New Guinea. According to Minister Stevens, Bethwell's appointment was done by the JLSC following its decision to seek judges from countries with common law jurisdictions apart from Australia.
We now have, today I have the pleasure of also announcing that we have for the first time recruited a sitting judge of the High Courts in Botswana, which is a common law jurisdiction, which is basically the same area of law which we practice in our country.
In addition, 4 acting judges have also been appointed, each to serve for a period of 12 months. They are Sinclair Gora, David Susame, John Kaumi and John Nomapo.
With the current government's intention to to introduce the APEC, Anti-Corruption Commission and Human Rights Commission. We are anticipating more numbers in terms of court cases and matters that will reach our courts. So the announcement that I make today of the increased number of judges is basically part of this reform process and readiness on the part of our JLSC and the judiciary for what is ahead.
Minister Stephen said as minister responsible for this important arm of government, he was satisfied with the appointments made by the JLSC.
The JLSC is particularly happy with the support of the current government in recognizing the demand that is now being placed upon our judiciary. Our people are now more aware of their rights, and they know that they have access and they have an expectation to access legal services, especially through judiciary.
Merabatulo, National EMTV News.
The Lae Metropolitan Commander Chief Superintendent Anthony Wagambi says the courts should impose tougher penalties on individuals found producing homebrew. Wagambi said a number of killings in Lae City were caused by people under the influence of homebrew and illicit substances. Thus, those producing homebrew must also be dealt with. He says community members should help police identify people and areas where homebrew is sold. The penalties are not tough enough, hence people continue to produce and sell homebrew. The Department of Justice and Attorney General has organized a workshop on the Family Protection Act. The workshop, which is being staged in Lae, is to provide stakeholders with training on the provisions of family protection legislation, including the Act and its enabling guideline. The stakeholders include Lae's Police, Justice Department and the Family Support Center.
What we're going to be going through?
This awareness and training workshop is an implementation of the Family Protection Regulations gazetted in April this year. The regulations are guidelines of the Family Protection Act that was passed by Parliament in 2013. The Department of Justice has rolled out awareness throughout the 4 regions of PNG with the support of the Australian government. Principal Legal Officer and lawyer Serena Sasinyan is here in Lae facilitating the workshop.
Really, the aim is to make sure all the stakeholders are aware of the law and make sure that we're able to go out there and effectively carry out awareness inside homes and in our communities to make sure people that have been victims or feel that their lives are under threat of violence from family members can go to court and get these family protection orders.
The Family Protection Act includes the application for family protection orders and constitutional requirements and penalties for an offence of domestic violence. The Family Protection Regulation provides protection of family and district and village courts to make orders for domestic violence and related matters.
Our plans are next year to work more closely with the village courts to start training them about their jurisdictions so they can also start implementing their powers to issue out interim protection orders at the village court level.
The stakeholders in Lae undergoing the training include the Police Sexual Offence Squad and Family and Sexual Violence Unit, the Justice Department and Family Support Center. Ms. Sasinyan, who also works with young people through The Voice Inc. and Family PNG, says child abuse cases are increasing in PNG.
It's not only direct child abuse, but children that are also growing up in homes that are just filled with these forms of violence. And if children are a reflection of what our country is going to be in the next 10 or 20 years' time, we're raising a really broken generation.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lae.
Mothers from Sinjipai village in Western Highlands province can now use a nearby community health post to deliver babies. The CHP was funded by the Asian Development Bank, AUSAID and PNG government at a cost of 3.7 million kina. It was officially opened and handed over to the Western Highlands Provincial Health Authority yesterday in Tambul Nabilia Electorate.
Sinjipai Community Health Post is the second to be opened and handed over to the Western Highlands Provincial Health Authority. It has a mini world-class standard health post building, 3 staff houses, patient ablution block, a world-class incinerator, fencing and is solar-powered. 2 more CHPs will soon be opened in the province, and once completed, Mount Hagen General Hospital will become the Highlands Regional Referral Hospital. WHPHA Deputy Chairman Michael Pundia says currently 40% of the total budget of Mount Hagen General Hospital is being used to serve people from other provinces like Enga, Southern Highlands and Hela due to tribal fighting. Pundia urged the National Health Department to increase their budget for Western Highlands to cater for the other provinces.
Budget for Western Highlands, the money government they give him enough the population of Western Highlands. But unfortunately,
the 8 project provinces to receive 4 CHPs each are Milne Bay, West Sepik, West New Britain, Morobe, the Autonomous Region of Bougainville, Enga, Eastern Highlands and Western Highlands Province. They are funded by the Asian Development Bank, the Government of Australia through Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and the Government of PNG. Its main focus is to reduce the high maternal mortality rate in PNG and to ensure communities have access to proper health services. Health Secretary Pasco Kase urged the local people to look after the facilities and the staff to receive other services in the long run.
That's why very important. Why people put in time something also because
more than 10,000 people at Upper Nebilia will have access to basic healthcare services from the Sinjipai Community Health Post. Those who attended the ceremony yesterday were representatives from ADB, DFET, Prime Minister's Office, Health Department and Provincial Government. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
As part of their community service, Miss Pacific Island PNG contestants were at the Port Moresby General Hospital to donate blood. Outgoing Miss Pacific Island PNG, Kellyanne Limbie, said one can give back to the community by donating blood. The beauty contestants are currently in camp preparing for the crowning of Miss Pacific Island PNG this Saturday.
The 6 contestants for the Miss Pacific Island PNG pageant were at the blood bank at Port Moresby General Hospital to donate their blood as a duty of their community service. Like every other donor, each of the contestants underwent screening before donating their blood. Nurse Madeline Ikas said the demand for all blood types daily is very high and the key areas that need more blood are the surgery department, labour ward, children's ward and the emergency department.
Every human being, after 3 months, you come and donate to save life. 1 bag is saving 3 lives. So when one bag goes to the lab technician extract 2 more products. So that's plasma and platelets. So you are saving 3 lives out from the 1 bag.
Current Miss Pacific Island PNG Kellyanne Mary Limbie encouraged the general public to donate blood to give back to their community if they cannot help in any other way. She said 1 bag of blood they donate can save 3 lives, which can be of loved ones or total strangers from the remote part of the country.
This would help the girls to give them a broader perspective of what Miss Papua New Guinea's job is about. It's about serving the community. It's about giving back to the community. So coming back here to the blood bank, this is my 2nd time to donate. I came here as a contestant last year, and I'm here as the reigning queen. Again, with the 6 contestants here to donate. Like our sister here said, you don't have to be a doctor to save lives. You need only to donate a bag of blood, and that 1 bag of blood can go a long way.
Miss Queen Emma Chocolate Niawali Twine, who is a medical laboratory scientist by profession, says this would be his 6th time in donating blood.
Having now been here and donating blood as a contestant for the Miss Papua New Guinea pageant, it is something of a honor to me. And if we can do it, I know that there are young girls out there. Maybe you might not be able to stand on a stage and talk or influence a group of people, but simply by coming into this building and donating blood can surely touch a life.
Stacey Yellow, National MTV News.
And now looking at our finance news, the kina closed unchanged at $0.3115 in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.304 $0.3936 Australian dollars, $0.2584 euro, and 34.23 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, cocoa closed higher, coffee and copra closed the day lower. Palm oil and copper closed higher, while crude oil is trading the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 8.81 points higher, the ASX closed at 1.96 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 1.74 points higher. You're with National MTV News, stories making headlines overseas. When we come back, stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, it's been 1 year since Donald Trump won the U.S. presidential election. The promises Trump made as a candidate made international headlines and divided a nation. Since his January inauguration, he has achieved some of them, but not many.
You can't always get what you want. In his bid to become the 45th president, Trump told Americans he'd improve border security by building a wall, and he insisted Mexico would pay for it.
I will build a great, great wall. Build that wall! Build that wall!
Of course, his Mexican neighbours refused, while his own party was hesitant to foot the bill. Last month, America unveiled prototype barriers, but the project is far from getting off the ground, and as to who's going to pay for it, that's still up in the air.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
That was his initial promise following the San Bernardino shootings. As president, Trump has enacted 2 travel bans by way of executive order on citizens from a handful of Muslim-majority countries. That led to mass protests across the US.
The message is simple. This is completely un-American.
Then 2 judges blocked his orders, saying they were unconstitutional.
If you have an order that's coming out there that's taking us back half a century to a time when there was discrimination by nations of origin or by religion, that's something that we have to speak up against.
In true Trump fashion, he's called it judicial overreach and indicated he'll take the fight to the Supreme Court. When running for office, Donald Trump claimed climate change is a hoax concocted by China, and the regulations for the Paris Climate Accord were stifling American growth.
A lot of it's a hoax.
On the 1st of June this year, he turned his back on the Obama-era agreement, signed by nearly 200 other countries.
This agreement is less about the climate and more about other countries gaining a financial advantage over the United States.
Though it may take a few years to flesh out, his promise to exit the Paris deal has been achieved.
Repealing and replacing Obamacare is one of the single most important reasons we must win on November 8th.
The pledge to repeal and replace Obamacare, a policy which extended health insurance to millions of Americans, was a trademark element of Trump's campaign. Once in office, though, his message began changing.
It's an unbelievably complex subject. Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
With his fellow Republicans unable to agree on several alternatives, Congress has since shelved the idea. But the president isn't letting it go, taking his first steps last month by signing an order to kickstart changes. So how much progress has the president made?
Prince Charles appears to have some explanation to do after it was revealed that he campaigned to alter climate change agreements without disclosing the fact. A company he has shares in would benefit from the deal. His actions have been exposed by the so-called Paradise Papers link.
For years, Prince Charles has campaigned on environmental issues, but Panorama has discovered he campaigned on one issue that he secretly stood to profit from. The Paradise Papers show the Prince of Wales' private estate, the Duchy of Cornwall, had $4 million in the tax havens of the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. This document shows $1 million in an offshore fund. Their annual report says the Prince is actively involved in running the duchy. We've found one deal that centres on this man in the cap, the late Hugh Van Cutsum. He was one of the Prince's oldest friends. Mr. Van Cutsum was a director of Sustainable Forestry Management Limited. They were registered in Bermuda and traded in carbon credits, a market created by international treaties to tackle global warming. Sustainable Forestry Management Limited would have made more money if international regulations were changed to include carbon credits from all forests. In February 2007, the duchy buys 50 shares worth $113,500. At that time, SFM's directors agree to keep the duchy's shares confidential. The Prince begins making speeches campaigning for changes to 2 international agreements on carbon credits. In June 2008, he sells his shares for $325,000. But we can't find, nor has the Prince's office been able to show us, any speeches Prince Charles made on this specific issue before he bought his shares. He made 3 major speeches in the 7 months after he bought them. This is the sort of thing the Prince was saying in his speeches. The European Carbon Trading Scheme excludes carbon credits for forests from developing nations. This has got to be wrong. Despite the Prince's lobbying, the regulations surrounding carbon credits were not changed. His spokesman said the Prince does not have any direct involvement in the investment decisions taken by the duchy, and he has certainly never chosen to speak out on a topic simply because of a company that it may have invested in. But for the second time in a week, the Paradise Papers raise serious questions about how royal cash is being managed.
Chukai Sports is next. We'll have updates on the Rugby League World Cup, Paul Ayton to play his last World Cup, and the quarter-final draws announced. Stay tuned for details.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. Commonwealth veteran Paul Ayton will play his last World Cup match on home soil this weekend against USA. The 32-year-old has played in 3 World Cups, and this year's tournament is expected to be his last.
Ayton plays in the English Super League for French team Caitlin Dragons. He was happy to be called up by coach Michael Maroon to be part of this year's World Cup squad.
Paul Ayton is going to be probably playing his last test match at home, including maybe road if he plays. So those 2 players have been around for some time, and we sort of be good for them to play their last game in front of their own fans here, and then carry on from their clubs next year. But we're looking at promoting, pushing the younger players up in the next few years as well. So yeah.
Ayton has been a part of different Kumul's teams and has once captained the squad. He says this year's team is one of the best, with the inclusion of Hunters players. He has commended the work done by PNG RFL in bringing rugby league to the standard it is at now. Ayton has seen selections done in the past where new players were chosen to play in every test match. He says there has to be consistency with selecting players to represent PNG by keeping the core of the team. After the World Cup, Ayton will go back to join his team for one final season before he retires. He has never considered coaching but has developed a certain interest over the years. He assured PNG that he will be available to help rugby league in the country. He thanked PNG for their support over his long rugby league career. Elijah Levet, National, EMTV Sports.
Como's captain David Mead visited Coronation Primary School in Boroko today. Mead, who is also ambassador for mobile brand Digicom, was swamped by school children as he arrived to present new chairs. He was accompanied by Digicom staff who presented the chairs as part of community obligations for Digicom and Phone House. The excited children and their teachers also took photos with the Como's captain, and some even had the opportunity to chat with him. Draws for the Rugby League World Cup quarter-finals have been announced. There is only one round left of pool games before the quarter-finals next week.
New Zealand, Australia and Tonga have secured their spots in the quarter-finals after last weekend's wins.
Another grubber along the ground, and the ball's laced. This will be a try for Tonga.
Australia will finish first or second in Pool A, regardless of the result in this weekend's clash against Lebanon. They will play their quarter-final match at Darwin Stadium on the 17th of November.
On his inside, and Billy Slater gets the 7th Australian.
The winner of Saturday's match between New Zealand and Tonga will secure first place, while the loser in second, and both will proceed to the sudden death round.
Sleight of hand, and he understands money.
New Zealand will play their quarter-final match at Wellington Regional Stadium on Saturday 18th November, while Tonga will play at Christchurch Stadium on the same day. If the current Pool A standings remains, England would finish in second place to play the top team in Pool C, which is currently Papua New Guinea, at Melbourne's Rectangular Stadium on Sunday 19th November.
But good rushing, still going low, still going, oh, he's unstoppable! Gary Lowe goes in to score! The Commons first!
The third place team in Pool B, which will be determined after the Samoa and Scotland match, will play the winner of Pool A in the quarter-finals. Looking ahead to this weekend's matches, if France can beat England on Sunday, Lebanon will qualify for a historic quarter-final appearance, making up the top three in Pool A. England, Lebanon, Fiji and Papua New Guinea can also secure their places in the quarter-finals with a win this weekend, while Ireland, Italy and France need to win and rely on other results to qualify.
Back it comes to the halfback, Ryan Getty, running off Josh Mantellato.
Elijah Lavette, National EMTV Sports.
More on Trukai Sports when we return. A search for para-athletes and badminton. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. PNG Sports Foundation, through its high-performance program, is looking for para-athletes for future regional and international sporting events. Working alongside high performance was Christopher Nunn from Parasports Oceania.
The program is the first of its kind to be held in PNG after the need for more para-athletes has become a demand. While only a few have represented PNG in the past, the PNG Sports Foundation, through its high-performance sports initiative, has identified the need to recognize and train more para-athletes capable of playing a particular sport depending on their ability. Talent Pathway Coordinator Kieran Cybrus says as PNG continues to excel in sports, it is time to give prominence to para-athletes who are also able to represent the country.
So because this was more or less the first of its kind in the country, we'll wait for a couple of months, see how these guys do, and hopefully advertise again. And once the interest is out there, they know what's going to happen, we'll get some more numbers in for the next few camps as well. Just that it's going to be really, really beneficial for the future of parasports in the country. There's a lot of athletes starting to retire, and we need athletes to come in to replace those ones that are about to leave, so this is probably the best way to do it at this time.
Representative of Oceania Parasports Christopher Nunn was pleased to be part of the program.
Really pleasing to see some of the athletes with natural ability, and I'm sure they don't even know their own potential. So the important element is to align them now with coaches who can provide ongoing training for them.
He alluded PNG has a bright future ahead, being the only country in the region to have the high-performance program.
We are looking for athletics. Table tennis is another very good sport, and particularly in some of the athletes, the powerlifting is going to be a very good event. We have a lot of strength here.
Nunn highlighted that athletes selected after the program will go straight into training, outlining that it is very important that para-athletes are committed.
So we will target some of the athletes who can be trained up for things like the mini games, regional competitions, the Oceania Athletics Championships, World Para Athletics, and ultimately our goal is to find some athletes who can represent PNG at the 2020 Tokyo Paralympic Games.
Similar programs will also be carried out in Lae. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
A 3-day badminton coaching clinic ended today. 11 tutors and 13 trainers received certificates accredited under Oceania and supported by PNG Sports Foundation. The aim of the clinic was to educate more trainers on how to become coaches in the sport of badminton.
After 3 days of theory lessons, trainers were in full swing on the courts as they showed off the skills learned. Keeping close watch on the newly trained coaches, their tutors in red ensured they put to practice what they learned. Chris Mekivo from Oceania Badminton says there is no better time to teach, and the time is now.
Beauty of the shuttle time program, if you have the ability to teach or coach, you can pick it up and run with it. We've been working with them on how they can quickly learn it and then deliver it. And so what you see behind me is a number of teachers who have never played badminton in their life, and now they're coaching it within 3 days.
Mekivo says an area of improvement for the association is to start promoting badminton throughout the schools to attract interest. The trainers who receive their certificates are expected to teach others how the sport is played.
There is a number of development staff who will be in regular contact and will also visit, particularly as the program builds. Obviously building a program like this, we might start seeing some talent, and who knows, we might have some participants at the Pacific Games in the near future in badminton.
The need for training tutors and trainers comes following the announcement that Samoa will include badminton to the 2019 Pacific Games. This means with only 20 months to the 2019 Pacific Games, PNG's Badminton Association will have to work twice as hard to form a team in time for the Games. Godwin Eki, National, EMTV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield, worth doing with Dulux.
Your weather forecast for tonight in the southern region: evening showers with possible thunderstorms in Port Moresby, fine weather in Daru, few showers in Kirima and showers in Alatau and Popondetta. In the Mamase region, cloudy with rain periods in Lae, showers and thunderstorms in Medang and Vanimo, and showers in Wewak. In the New Guinea Islands region, few showers in Lorengau, showers and thunderstorms in Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka, and morning showers in Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, evening showers then morning fog in all centres.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield, worth doing with Dulux.
And that's been the news, sports and weather for Wednesday, the 8th of November 2017. From the entire news team, I'm Helen Seah. Pleasant viewing. Good night.